Hello and welcome to the Danish Painter channel. Today I want to show you some really cool effects using watercolor and some techniques that makes it really easy to loosen up and to be experimental in your work. Although I paint primarily in acrylics, watercolor was my first love, and I still like to use watercolor paints once in a while, and especially when going out on trips in the landscape. I bring my watercolors, but also trying out different small things in the studio, maybe some combinations when I'm testing out some compositions for new paintings. So if you're looking for some fun and new way to loosen up your watercolor paintings, stick around and we'll get right to it. Some time ago I decided to find out what happens if you add diluted isopropyl alcohol to your watercolor painting. I kind of had an idea of what would happen as I had tried it on my acrylic paints. I took a pad of watercolor paper, my watercolor paints, and just a few old brushes. These are acrylic brushes, as I believe the isopropyl alcohol can actually be really hard on natural hair brushes. So I'm going to use my acrylic brushes for this. I made a solution of approximately 25% isopropyl alcohol and 75% water, and put it in a small jar with a screw-on lid. The small size makes it easy to bring along on plein air painting trips. Also, I label these jars with the contents so I'll know exactly what they contain at a later time. The shallow lid of the jar makes it perfect to decant a small portion and keep it on the side when painting. That way I won't contaminate all of the isopropyl with paint when I dip my brush into the solution. One way to get interesting effects is to first do a wash of watercolor, and then you use a clean brush and dip it slightly into the pre-mixed solution. Add it to your watercolor paint and watch what happens. Adding the isopropyl will push the paint pigments around in unexpected ways and create interesting textures and effects. If you want to enhance the way the pigments move around, you can try tilting the paper and forcing the paint to drip and run. Try adding darker contrasting colors, and you can add more isopropyl mixture on top. The paint will continue to move and change as long as the paint and paper are wet. This makes it hard to have full control of what's happening, but that's the whole point, right? So we're doing this to loosen up and create some unexpected effects. Another approach is to add the isopropyl alcohol to the paper first. Here I'm trying to make some droplets by spattering the solution onto the paper. Now make a strong wash of watercolor and brush it on top of the droplets and see what happens. Notice the difference if you brush it on once and leave it alone, or if you apply it several times on the same spot. The effects will be stronger if we leave it alone after just one application. But try and see what you prefer if you like going over the same spot many times. I also found that the granulating effects of the watercolor also seems to be improved by adding some of this isopropyl solution. It's also possible to mix the two techniques and do some layering, alternating between adding paint and adding solution. You can also try alternating between adding the solution more spontaneous, or if you want to be more precise, you can go in with the tip of the brush and do more detailed work. I really like the soft and kind of atmospheric feel that I get from using watercolors in this way. Here I built up several washes of dark watercolor using a wet into wet technique. And now I'm going to go in with the solution and see what happens. It's just really a lot of fun, and it feels a bit like magic when the painting instantly changes in front of your eyes. Are you one of those painters who's constantly torn between starting out loose but then ending up adding too much detail and overworking? If you are, you could consider adding this approach to your toolkit. I have been there, and one of my great passions is to discover new ways to loosen up my painting style, and when I do, I like to share my findings. I could see this technique working really well for creating textured, weathered wood, peeling paint. I also think it would work well for loosening up my landscape paintings, creating shimmering effects on water, for example, fields of flowers, soft backgrounds for abstracted work. If you found this video helpful, I want to direct you to my free guide, 5 proven ways to loosen up your painting style. See the link just below this video. In the guide, I share the 5 most transformative ways to loosen up and strengthen your paintings. Download the free guide and start today to improve and move forward on your painting journey. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.